Thank you for joining today's Firefinch webinar. I'm Danica Warburton from Investability, and I'm delighted to hand over to Dr. Michael Anderson, the Managing Director of Firefinch, to run us through the June quarter results before opening it up to a Q&A. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Danica, and morning, everyone. Very interesting experience for me writing this quarterly report, because it basically spoke to my first 3 months with the company. And, on reflection, it was quite an action-packed 3 months. Not at the end of the day, not only did we achieve a lot, but of course, myself and our COO, Andrew Taplin, visited sites and got to see everything for ourselves. And so, that was a great experience, and one that totally further, if you like, increased my conviction and enthusiasm for this great opportunity that we have at MORILA. And we also got to visit GOULAMINA. So, it really was an action-packed 3 months. And so, look, today's presentation is as much a recap as then a bit of a what next, because honestly, the news flow doesn't slow down here. We've got lots of things happening, both at MORILA itself, but also then you'll start to see a lot of things evolving around the GOULAMINA transaction and the relationship with Ganfeng. And I know a lot of people are very keen to understand what those next steps are. So I'll get into the presentation, and which will be a summary and overview. I'll refer back to some of the announcements that we did make during the quarter, which I think contain a lot of the detail, and encourage you to follow up if you have any questions later on. So so as I said, a pretty action-packed quarter, which began for me. I started in the role on the 6th of April, just straight after Easter, and one of the first things that happened was that we got underway with the dewatering of the MORILA super pit, and that's now well advanced. I think we're down at least 5 meters, and of course you'll understand with the shape of the pit, those early decreases are across the biggest surface area, and we have now exposed some of the tailings that also need to be repatriated there. So that process is going to plan and going very well, and on track to achieve what we need to. Shortly after that, we started mining on the flank of the MORILA pit itself at MORILA Pit 5, and in fact, just the end of the quarter, we got preparations underway to get mining happening at Viper, which is the first of the true satellites that'll be mined very soon. We also awarded the contract for the mining of Viper in Chola, and indeed the MORILA super pit, to an international firm called Boto Engel, who are very active in the space. They're mining for Anglo-American across the border in Guinea at Siguri. With all of those steps, that now meant that we had fresh ore to treat through the mill and through the processing circuit, not just the tailings, which was another very significant step in reviving MORILA, as it were. So that all got underway with the recommissioning of the crushing and ball mill circuit in mid-May, and very pleasingly that all went very smoothly, and has led to a significant increase in overall gold recoveries that will continue. And as we get into fresh rock being the predominant, oxide and fresh material being the predominant sources here, and the tailings side of it will completely disappear, we expect to get back to the 90–91% recoveries that MORILA enjoyed through its entire life. Next was an absolute wealth of drilling, and we've had multiple successes across Pit 5 and Viper and Coting, and that the Pit 5 intersections are probably the most telling right now, in that in our announcement of the 1st of June, where we talked about some more high-grade gold results at Pit 5, the very significant aspect of those results were that many of the intersections sit outside the current resource models, but they're inside the MORILA super pit. And for us, that's very material, because that means there's more upside in pit inventory, more ounces, and a potential decrease in strip ratios. And we expect to find more of that when we get underway more fulsomely with the MORILA drilling program that will start to unfold over the next few weeks. We did put a couple of diamond holes into the MORILA super pit to target those historical high-grade zones. We are awaiting the results of those. We believe we have intersected the mineralized zone, but we await the assays to confirm that. But all in all, then, that, you know, all these steps, the mining and the processing and the ramp up, if you like, of MORILA led to a very healthy quarter. We'd given guidance of 11 to 13,000 ounces, and we achieved just over 12,500. With June being over 5,000 ounces, which if you annualize means we're at approximately a 60,000 ounce per annum rate. But I sort of left the best to last. That life of mine plan was actually released in early May. And you know, it was based on all the historical information that we have from Barrick. You know, they haven't drilled any new holes since 2009, we believe. And you know, so we're now going to add to their historical drill database, but we also took their historical cost information and we put together a life of mine plan that demonstrated a 10-year mine life and a maiden 1 million ounce reserve. Now, I think that's a very conservative start, because you know what we see in what I'm calling life of mine plan number 1, and I expect our life of mine plans to be constantly improved and optimized here. Is an input inventory of 1.45 million ounces, and over 10 years it sees us averaging 160,000 ounces per annum. We're off to this healthy but modest start of 50 to 60,000 ounces this year. Next year, 2022, sees us producing about 120,000 ounces, and that quickly ramps up to 170 in 2023 and 200,000 ounces in 2024. And the job of the drill bit will then be to keep us at that level. So we expect to infill the back end of this life of mine schedule, and indeed to extend it. The other area that we think we've been conservative in, but again based on the information that we had, was around the costs. But it led to an all-in sustaining cost projected of over the life of $1,124. I'm already seeing significant improvements in processing costs and overall G&A, which hopefully will be included in an updated life of mine version in a very short while. But with that initial global mineral resource of 50 million tons and 2.4 million ounces and a reserve of over 1 million ounces, we're off to a very good start. And it was great to see it all, as I say, for ourselves. You know, we, as I've said before, we inherited a very capable workforce here. We're building on that. We're adding in the additional mining contracting assistance, and very, very happy with the start that we've made and the trajectory that we're on. The other very significant highlight of the quarter was announcing the GOULAMINA transaction. And you know, it's remarkable when you think that we only appointed Macquarie to this process in early March, and we announced this deal in the middle of June. And I've been involved in multiple interactions with Chinese and Asian counterparties over the years. None of them have come to a successful head within the space of 3.5 months. And not only that, you know, this is a very significant deal that brings the funding for GOULAMINA to the table, $194 million US, with a world-class partner. You know, GOULAMINA is a world-class asset, and I think Ganfeng have recognized that. The quality of the resource, the grade at 1.45% Li2O, the spodumene concentrate grading 6% lithium, and very low impurities is clearly what attracted them to it. And I can tell you that we're off to a very healthy start in our interaction with them, and very pleasing to have attracted what we consider to be a very high quality partner here. You know, I think a lot of people do know they are the world number 1 in production of lithium chemicals, a market capitalization of 26 billion US. These guys are serious players in the industry. And I have to tell you, I've just come back from Diggers and Dealers, and I was sitting at the gala dinner on Wednesday evening alongside the Pilbara management team, who congratulated us on our deal. And I think it's great to be recognized by a company who we, I guess, aspire to be, once we're into production, you know, at a similar level of market capitalization and production. You know, they recognize how credible a partner Ganfeng are. And so a lot more to unfold on that deal, and with our plans, not just for the project, but for the announced intention to demerge our share of the joint venture. And I think if you give us just a little bit of time, we'll put a lot of flesh on the bones of this deal and the demerger. So moving to then what you can expect to see from us in Q3, which of course is already 1 month old. We have significantly ramped up our mining activities. The mobilization of Moto Engel and the intermining JV to Viper is on track. We expect to see first ore mined and trucked to MORILA this month. But very importantly, we now have 4 drilling rigs on site at MORILA, and the focus absolutely squarely turns to MORILA itself and the super pit. I'll show you in a moment where we are targeting, and it's the early stages of the life of mine plan. Together with that, the team on site and under the supervision of Andrew, our COO, are targeting further inroads to the cost structure that we inherited from Barrick. Very confident that there's some low-hanging fruit there, and we'll always be looking to make operational improvements across the mining and processing side, all of which will lead to an optimization of the economics of the life of mine plan. The dewatering will continue apace, and we'll be moving to the repatriation of the tailings. Of course, the tailings that were remined and processed can go back where they came from, and we've done all the preparatory work for that, and we're ready to go. Our guidance, gold production guidance for the September quarter is 13,000 to 15,000 ounces. 15,000 ounces, should I say. And so the drilling, the focus of the couple of holes that we have drilled at MORILA so far, to talk about it in reverse a bit, has been that red oval number 2 down in the extensions of the high grade zone, where we're chasing up historical intersections of 56 meters at just under 5 grams. And of course, there's no reason why that stops where it does. That's just the depth of drilling that has been undertaken previously. And so we're looking to step out and to extend that zone and increase the high grade resource in that part of the pit. But the large oval number 1 is where we can get going very quickly with further definition of what we can expect to mine in the stage 1 of the planned cutback. And it's those results from the MORILA Pit 5 that give us a high degree of confidence here, because we intersect things like 58 meters at 1.75 grams, which is not in the current resource model. So that's all upside. I think there was another 16 meters at 3.9 grams, again, not in the model. And so further drilling here, I believe, will significantly increase the resource inventory in the pit, the in-pit ounces, and all the way along we'll be reducing the strip ratio. So a very important phase of drilling that we need to get going with in the next couple of months, because we expect to be mining here early next year. And make no mistake, this is a massive system that historically was drilled looking for only high grade. MORILA in its heyday was mining 15, 16 gram material, and 1.5, 2 gram dirt was not a priority for Randgold and Anglo back in the day. But it's very material to us. The gold price environment being what it is, we can make very good margins on that type of material, and plan to capitalize on all the opportunity within this current pit shell. The GOULAMINA outlook is, as we announced earlier in the week, we are very close to finalizing the documentation with Ganfeng, the subscription agreement, the joint venture arrangements, etc. And clearly a lot of interaction with them in the last few weeks, hearing some very positive feedback from them on their desire to fast track things. Certainly our preference, given the market that we're in and the price environment that we're in. And we already have got a collaborative value engineering phase underway. Clearly, Ganfeng bring a lot of expertise to the table here. So the definitive feasibility study that we completed late last year is our starting point, but they're already making suggestions as how we can improve upon that, optimize the flow sheet, optimize the costs, both capital and operating. So more than happy to capture that input and get on with things. And you know, our goal is to have a final investment decision made as soon as possible, and that we're targeting early next year for that. I know a lot of people are very interested around the timeline and structure of the planned demerger. So very simply, once the documents are signed and the conditions precedents are met with Ganfeng, we can get going with the demerger. The plan is to take our 50% share of the joint venture and spin that out into an ASX listed vehicle. Questions about the allocation of shares. It's not so much the allocation. This will be an in-specie distribution. So every Firefinch shareholder will get their pro rata share of SpinCo. And you know, that our intention, as we've said, is to spin to in-specie distribute about 80% of the shares, and it'll be done on a pro rata basis. The specific ratios to be confirmed. But you know, I think the clear message I want to make sure people understand is that the only way you'll get a share in SpinCo in this demerger is to own Firefinch. So if you own Firefinch, you'll be a shareholder in SpinCo and you'll get your fair share, your pro rata entitlement. We are proactively out looking to recruit the senior management and board of SpinCo, and getting some very credible candidates come forward, and confident that we will have a quality team leading the development and the marketing of this company. And you know, as soon as we can, we'll obviously advise who the lucky individuals are, but we expect that process to run in parallel with the ongoing interaction with Ganfeng as we warm up to the demerger. Clearly, during the quarter, we did attend to some of our funding requirements, particularly for MORILA. You know, it was a pretty successful quarter in respect of share price performance. You know, I took on this role, as I said, on the 6th of April, came into the company with a share price of 21.5 cents, I think it was. So, you know, we hit some highs, and you know, there were some external headwinds with some of the instability in Mali, and didn't help that the Fed in the US announced their intention to increase interest rates and wiped a few bob off the gold price. But sitting here today, I think I think we started this morning 43 cents. So effectively, we've doubled the share price in this quarter. But we're not done. You know, this company capitalized at approximately 400 million Aussie today. You know, I've gone on record a couple of times in recent presentations, particularly around diggers, saying that, you know, if we get to where we are aiming on steady state production at both MORILA at that 200,000 ounce per annum mark, you know, that's $1 billion company right there. And I have compared us and analogized us to West African Resources, who were awarded the Digger of the Year up at Diggers, a fantastic achievement for an Australian company with an asset in Burkina Faso. But that shows you what can be done in West Africa. And you know, and I've known Richard Hyde for quite a long time, and he was kind enough to refer to us in his talk at Diggers as an up-and-coming company. And certainly, if we can aspire to their levels of production and their levels of market capitalization, you know, that sees another healthy re-rate along the way. Then, as I mentioned, I was sat along with the Pilbara management team at dinner on Wednesday night, and you know, if we can achieve steady state production of over 400,000 tons of spodumene concentrate at GOULAMINA, even our half share of that will see us capped similarly to them. And again, another $1 billion company in the making. So, you know, that's the future. It doesn't happen overnight. You know, it does require a lot of hard work and patience on behalf of our stakeholders and shareholders. But that's what's in front of us. And you know, that's the goal that we have as management and as shareholders. And so these funds were critical to maintain the momentum at MORILA, and to keep the plans for GOULAMINA unfolding until such time as the demerged company can take care of its own funding requirements. So we ended the quarter with just over 60 million Australian of cash and bullion, and that will keep us going with all that we have in front of us for the foreseeable future. We are still targeting, however, a 50 million US approximately a debt piece for MORILA. Was pleased with the responses that we got from the international finance community, and we have moved to an exclusive due diligence phase with our preferred financier, and hopefully keep you informed of how that unfolds over the next few months. Another important aspect of the raising was, we did attract over 20 new international and domestic institutions to the register, notably the likes of Franklin Templeton out of San Francisco, CQS out of London, people who have been shareholders of companies that I've been involved with in the past, and it's great to have their support. Other North American players like Mackenzie and Dundee, a few out of Asia, including APAC Resources, and certainly a significant number of additional domestic institutions who bolster then the top 10, a couple of them along with those who continue to support us, the likes of Kinetic and Westos here in Perth. Our drilling company Capital, they're still very supportive. They participated. You see Franklin there at number 6, and Ixios out of London and Paris, who've been a shareholder for a while, at number 7. And Brendan, my fellow board member, is still in our top 10. We are all aligned here. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. We're all trying to add value and maximize the potential of these two assets. And you certainly can be assured of our ongoing commitment to do that. It's good that we still have the research coverage out of Sprott and Neuros, and now joined by Petra Capital. I'm very hopeful that we will add to that further in the coming weeks. Canaccord, who participated in the placement, are certainly looking at initiating, I believe, in the coming weeks. And hopefully their global reach will also continue to increase the profile of Firefinch in these very worthwhile assets. So, all in all, I think a very successful quarter. But for me, it was obviously just the start, my first 3 months with the company, and plenty of news flow still to come across both MORILA and GOULAMINA, and lots of value still to be created. And I look forward to everyone's ongoing interest and support. So we can hand back to Danica, who will field the questions.
Thanks, Mike. It has been a very busy 3 months. It seems like a lot longer than that. And we've had a few comments come through saying, thank you for your work so far. There's been a few, hi, Mike, congrats, that sort of sentiment coming through. So I thought I would share that. Jumping straight into the questions, if anyone wants to ask a question, just type it into the Q&A feature down the bottom of your screen. You did cover off on the GOULAMINA process, but we've had a couple of questions just come through. So maybe just quickly reiterate progress on the CPs with Ganfeng, and when you think the demerger will occur.
So the CPs are very simple. It's Chinese government approval, and we need to transfer the license to the joint venture. We genuinely believe and have had legal advice that there are no regulatory approvals in Australia, and that also shareholder approval isn't necessary. So we believe that can be achieved quite quickly, albeit that ball, the Chinese government approval is clearly squarely in Ganfeng's court, but they're telling us that they're very focused on that and progressing well. So don't have any particular concerns, and obviously the sooner we can get it done, the better. In respect of then the demerger, well, it'd be nice if these things can happen quickly, but when you get involved with lawyers and the ASX and ASIC and all the rules and regulations around it, there are a few I's to dot and T's to cross. But we're targeting to achieve it as quickly as possible. I suspect we'll sort of run into the end of this financial year, or sorry, calendar year, and then it becomes a question of, well, when's the right time to do it with respect to Christmas and New Year and market timing and impact. But you can assure that people will make objective, rational decisions around that. And as I said earlier, that everyone who is a shareholder of Firefinch is guaranteed their pro rata in specie distribution. So you've got to trust us and have a little bit of patience that we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And we, as shareholders ourselves, are all absolutely focused on creating the maximum value.
Okay. What's the formula for the offtake for Ganfeng? Is it 50% of the market price?
No, look, so look, you know, as people would understand, offtake arrangements in lithium are reasonably confidential. However, what we did say in the announcements at the time, and I'm going to just remind myself of that so I don't misquote, but the transaction detail on page 11 of our presentation back in mid-June said that you know, the offtake pricing will be determined by a formula which is linked to the prevailing price, okay, of downstream lithium products, which means we're exposed to the upside of any lithium price improvements, and that we also, for the period of the Ganfeng debt, will have a floor price. And look, again, you can rest assured that we've taken some very professional advice on this, and the chap that we used to negotiate the offtake arrangement has multiple deals under his belt and experience, and we've taken a lot of precedent, if you like, from some of the arrangements that maybe didn't go so well in recent times to try and protect ourselves as best we can, notwithstanding that having Ganfeng as a partner at the project level is pretty material too. So it's not just a straight offtake arrangement, and so, you know, they have a foot in both camps, and I think that that's part of our de-risking strategy here. But make no mistake, we've got exposure to the upside of the lithium prices, and you know, certainly as they stand today, set aside alongside our cost base, you know, this project stands to be very, very successful and very profitable.
Okay, great. That's really good, because that was, a few people have asked that, so hopefully that answers everyone's question there. I guess we'll move to some of the questions coming through on the tax dispute. Have you had any update on that?
Sure. Look, so I as I said, went to Mali in June. It was just after a little bit of further government disruption, which was disappointing, and so you know, it created a bit of a hiatus in our ability to engage one-on-one with the ministers. But our country manager is back doing that. But I did meet with the Secretary Generals of both mining and finance, who assure us that they're as keen as we are to resolve this. You know, we believe that it's a completely incorrect assessment based on an incorrect way of assigning the value of gold bars, basing it on weight, not purity. And so we've got a very strong case to hopefully put this behind us. Very focused on doing that as soon as we can. Disappointing that we weren't able to advise that we'd done so this quarter, but very much front of mind for us. And I speak regularly to my in-country team on the matter, and rest assured, as soon as we possibly can, we'll put it to bed.
Okay. Moving to MORILA, Colin's asked about the dewatering. How far has the water level dropped at MORILA? How far?
5 meters. 5
yeah.
meters. So we, you know, as I said before, we don't need to dewater the entire pit before we can get back mining on these upper benches. And clearly, we're about to start drilling on that western side already. So it'll be a staged process, and you know, the next key phase is to start removing the tailings as well. So we've got pumps in order, and that'll unfold in the coming months.
I believe that was on slide 9 that you spoke about that. Andrew's actually asked, when you were on slide 9, did Mike say he thought that we had intersected mineralization at the northeast of the MORILA?
Yes. Which is, you know, it's no surprise. Like, we're just drilling effectively down plunge of the known high grade zones. So you know, it's not easy to tell visually what grade it might well be, but you know, we have intersected the target zone.
Okay. Have we forward mapped a time where there will be a dividend? If so, what would be the criteria for such a dividend? E.g.,
I'd love to be paying dividends, you know, and I'm not shy to. Back in Exco days, we made a very significant capital return and dividend, which doesn't always make you popular amongst your peers in management in West Perth. I think a lot of companies like to preserve their cash and have it to reinvest. But we've got to get to that steady state production level, and once we start generating significant cash flow, then obviously dividends become a real consideration for companies that are doing that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I would guess at least a couple of years away from paying dividends, but won't have any hesitation to when the cash is there.
Okay. So outside the main MORILA super pit, where do you see the most significant upside for gold exploration? And also tying into that, Anthony's asked, especially K3, because there's been some fabulous drilling results there, and he wants to know whether the team are busy looking for further extensions to the surrounding area.
Of course we are. And look, given we're just about to start drilling at MORILA, you know, first time really since taking on the asset in November. So in that intervening period, we've drilled something like 30,000 meters at the satellites. So that's Viper and Inchola and Domba and Coting and K3 and the like. And whilst there's definitely more to come, we've already doubled the sizes of the resources there. So when we took back these assets, so some of those satellite assets were old Birimium gold deposits that were dealt on with MORILA. So they're now back in our portfolio. So I think we had something like 118,000 ounces in resource inventory when we acquired the assets. We've now got over 213. So another 100,000 ounces added in the space of just a few months. And that will continue. You know, our drilling will be focused at MORILA, but of the 4 rigs, there'll be 2 at MORILA and 2 across the satellites, and that's before we then start to put our mind to what might be you know, obvious targets within the broader 685 square kilometers of package. Because I'm convinced that MORILA is not an orphan, right? When you look at West African gold across Senegal and Western Mali and Ivory Coast, Ghana. You know, there are clusters of high grade and well endowed deposits. Yet MORILA sits here as this apparent orphan, and maybe it's so. Maybe there's an exception to every rule. However, given the geochemistry that I've seen across our 685 square kilometer package, I believe there's some obvious places to go looking for MORILA Mark II. But those things probably come a little bit later on. You know, where we can create the biggest bang for our immediate drilling buck is at MORILA, because, you know, it's a kilometer from the mill. We're going to be mining this pit anyway. If we can reduce that strip ratio significantly, increase the input inventory significantly, that's what will make the most material impact to our economics and our margins and our cash, and provide all the opportunity to go drilling and looking elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. And on the labs, is the lab at MORILA doing the diamond drill assays, or are they being outsourced, and how long do the results take?
We have sent the diamond core to Bamako, simply because that was going to get the results the quickest. You know, we've got a lot of assays in the lab at site. So. Okay.
Turning to ESG, is the company planning on implementing strong ESG credentials both for MORILA and SpinCo?
Absolutely, you know, and we already have. You know, we've obviously inherited a very strong ESG culture from Barrick and the workforce that have come across. And you know, I've made the point both on the site visit and in every interaction that I've had with our team that safety is our #1 priority. We've inherited all the community programs that Barrick had. Albeit some of them were designed more around closure planning than ongoing operations, but we are working away to maintain the fish farms and poultry farms, honey production, and market gardening that was all in place. But you know, one of the biggest things that we can do for the local communities in Mali is create jobs, and that's what we're doing at GOULAMINA. And that was very clear when we made the visit down there. That's what they want. They want jobs. And they'll get them. But alongside that, we will absolutely replicate the safety priority that we have at MORILA and the ESG guidelines that we aspire to, which are at the highest level. So we've done a gap analysis to the IFC's guidelines. Very pleased to say there weren't many gaps, but we're busy doing all that we can to become completely compliant with the IFC guidelines.
Okay. I've got about 3 more questions. There's plenty more coming through, but if we probably can't get to them all in the time. So one of the questions that's come through a few times is around the debt, the loan, and what's it? What are you going to use that for?
We do still have some capital requirements at MORILA to achieve everything that we want to as quickly as we want to in terms of ongoing drilling, dewatering, and ultimately pre-strip. And the pre-strip is probably the biggest part of it, both at the satellites and then ultimately MORILA. So that's what the use of funds will be. We're operating a world-class mine here and a large mine, and our monthly costs are quite significant. So having a buffer there and running this business as to what we aspire to be, which is a major mining company, requires sufficient funds to do what you need to do, and sufficient funds in place to create that buffer and insurance that we never sail too close to the wind.
Yeah, lots of lovely comments coming through again for you, thanking you for your work. So
just seeing one here that I would like to answer,
go for it.
which is about the capital raise and the perception that it was rushed. Well, it wasn't rushed. Bottom line is it couldn't be completed until GOULAMINA had been announced, because the market needs to be fully informed, and that meant that we needed to talk about GOULAMINA as a binding transaction, not an incomplete one. And then also a question about why an SPP wasn't considered. Well, it was, but we made the point in the announcement that we'd done one in October, November, and ASIC laws only allow you to do one every 12 months. So unfortunately, that wasn't available to us. And the board was very aware of some of the sentiments around that, but unfortunately, our hands were tied.
Yeah. So there's been a few questions. What are we doing on the marketing front to bring the market cap in line with peers? I suppose.
I think everything that we're doing is designed to do that. It takes time. We have to deliver at the end of the day, and it takes time. I think we've had a fantastic quarter. We've doubled our market cap this quarter, and I think everything that we're doing, including the demerger, is consistent with maximizing value. I think the strategy for demerging GOULAMINA has made sense to me from the first day I heard about it, right? And which was long before I joined the company. At the end of the day, a gold asset and a lithium asset in the same company is always going to struggle to achieve full value for both. We've got a lot of people who invested for lithium back in Mali lithium days, and then a lot of people who've come on the register for the MORILA acquisition. And it's not that the two don't I suppose go hand in hand, but when you look at valuations, and a couple of the analysts who are looking at us have said this to me, it's clear that we're getting value for one or the other, but not both. And that's not unusual, and that's why there has been a number of both completed demergers and indeed mooted demergers, because clearly a single asset is easier to value. And so we believe that giving GOULAMINA its own lease of life will hopefully see a lot of value added there. But in terms of increasing our value and our market capitalization for MORILA, well, it's all about delivering on that production profile. We need to go from the 50,000-60,000 ounces this year up to the 150 to 200s. And then when we are, the market will value that. The market will value the cash flow that we're generating. And it's a process. It takes time. This board has to be one of the most experienced and credible that I've been associated with. Alistair has over 40 years of experience. I've got 30. Brad Gordon would easily have the same. And we've all been here and done it before. And so there's, a degree that we have of trust in each other, that we're making the right decisions here, and that we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And I think that's all you can ask of a board and management team, that you're objective and rational, and you make the right decisions for the right reasons. And we can see the clear path to those higher market capitalizations and to the higher share prices, which is what it really counts. But it takes time.
Absolutely.
So, I hope that shareholders will trust us and will be patient with us, because we're shareholders too. We want to achieve the same things, and we genuinely believe that we're on the right path.
Yeah, we had some comments coming through saying pretty happy with the board, to be honest, smiley face. So I guess if we're just going to wrap it up to end on, you touched on the fact that there's quite a bit of news flow coming up at the start of the presentation. So what what can we say that gives?
Well, I think most materially, we're very aware that we need to put some greater clarity around everything that's happening with Ganfeng and GOULAMINA and the demerger. And so, that's, work in hand, as they say, and hopeful that we can provide that clarity much sooner rather than later. But again, it needs to be definitive information. There isn't much point in coming back to everyone with something that's half complete. So I'm very focused on that. And I think, again, very pleased with this initial few weeks. Bear in mind, we only announced the transaction in mid-June. So here we are, about 6-7 weeks later. I think it's an embryonic relationship with Ganfeng, but going very well. And I'm very optimistic that when we do put that clarity around it, that people won't be disappointed. But up to us to provide that clarity. And then it's sort of more of the same at MORILA to the largest extent. We're on this path to greater production, but it comes step by step. So we inherited the tailings operation. We started satellite mining at Pit 5. We're now onto Viper, which is higher grade. And we're trying to keep this this hungry mill full, and that's the recipe. Keeping the mill full with increasingly higher grade ore, and that's the progression as we've gone from tailings to the first of the satellites to the higher grade satellites, and ultimately to MORILA. And once we are processing over 4 million tons per annum at 1.5 to 2 grams, that's what gets us to the 150 to 200,000 ounces. And that's when the revenues and the cash flows speak for themselves.
Fantastic. Well, very exciting times, and we thank everyone that jumped on the call today. There was quite a few of you. As